What's up, guys? It's Brian here from the Sinbin podcast presented by Dorm Room Sports. Before we get started, we just wanted to thank you, our fans, for coming back each week and watching on YouTube or listening wherever you find your podcast. First of all, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page, Dorm Room Sports. And secondly, make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Sinbin Pod. Now let's get to our interview with Matt Trust. All right, we have a special guest on this week. Our first guest ever on the Sinbin podcast, Matt Trust of the Hershey Bears, the media relations coordinator and broadcast assistant up there in Hershey, the AHL affiliate of the Washington Capitals. Matt, it's great to have you on. I know looks like you're still in the office. Probably, it's minor league, so you got to work late.
It's pretty much like living room 2.0 for me. Might as well just change my forwarding address here. Might as well get used to it, right? Once we're in season, I'll be here much later anyway on game days. So just ease back into it.
Yeah. It's got to be a good time to be within the Caps organization, though. I mean, you've got a stud in Connor McMichael that you get to watch every game and be around a lot of winning. Let's put it that way, especially right now with the Caps winning. Hershey's obviously always good. Well, what's it like being around such a winning culture?
It's really great. And the nature of this organization is one where history and tradition is really valued by the fan base here to an extent that it's really tough to compare any other minor league sports franchise to. I mean, this team started playing in the American Hockey League in 1938. This is the oldest professional hockey franchise that isn't an original six in the National Hockey League. So on top of that, 11 Calder Cup championships. And what I love about the organization and the building, if you ever walk into Giant Center, the only banners you will see are Calder Cup banners. They don't hang banners for winning the conference or the division. It's all about what the ultimate prize is here. So when you have that winning tradition, in addition to the commitment to develop players with the Washington Capitals and how strong the affiliation has been since it started in the 2005-2006 season, it's a really great culture. It's a place where players want to play, where they want to develop, because they know a huge part of the development model here is the ability to win as well.
Yeah, for sure. And because it completely slipped my mind beforehand, got the round robin here. First, we got what jersey? We got jerseys on tonight. Your first YouTube pod of the year, and what beers we're all drinking. So, Kyle, you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, not a big deal. Just good old high school jersey. I'm sure Derek has one of these somewhere in the closet, but not a big deal to see. And then a good old patch for Gino, my boy Jacob's brother. But
not a boy.
And my high school jersey is actually hanging up in the rafters at Columbia, so it makes sense, right?
But
tough scene.
I don't know about that. So I'm rocking the Frederick Freeze jersey.
Great
our
team.
junior B team.
That's a beaut of a jersey right there.
Oh, yeah. The colors are great. The team, at least we look good on the ice. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. We got a great team my year with you.
Yeah, it was. I love these threads though. The baby blue, the powder blue, and navy blue. Love it.
Oh yeah. Matt, what you rocking today?
So we got behind me here. I'll show this guy off. I don't want to wear it since of how old it is, but an older retro Hershey Bears jersey. So this was worn, I want to say, mid 1950s into the 60s. So you have the old Skating Bear logo with the Hershey chocolate bar going across, and number 8 on the back here. So this thing is old classic Eddie Shore era minor league hockey here.
I love that. That is incredible.
What do you got, Brian?
Absolutely incredible. Jersey. So I'm rocking the Nathan MacKinnon 2020 Stadium Series Avalanche jersey. It's the one non-Capitals hockey jersey that I own. Never played, so I don't have my own jersey. So I got to start building up the collection, though, for these kind of pods. I guess next week or next YouTube episode, I got to bring out the Tom Wilson jersey, just as a little bridge. But yeah, Nathan McKinnon. That's my favorite non-capped player. It's a good one to have. And what beers we got tonight though? We got what's the beers of the week?
I don't know how to
Derek doesn't know how to
beer.
pronounce his, so that's okay.
It's Kirin Ichiban. I have no idea. No clue.
What country is that from?
Let's just go with Japan. I think it's a
Japan makes
Japanese
beer?
I don't know, man.
Well, they got to
Some
drink
mom-
something out there.
Some mom gave me these beers. Shout out to the moms in Rockville. She I don't know, but it's a pretty solid beer. It's good beer. Kirin Ichiban.
Going with the same thing as last week, but my beer is broken. So for the podcast boys, decided to break out the big boys.
Oh boy.
Was it dry ice?
Gotta be the Whitney in there, right? Oh, of course. Of course.
Pink Whitney podcast.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Love that. Matt, what you got rolling?
I had to like raid my boss's desk to my left to find something here. So all I find was just the good stuff. A couple just shots here. The Captain Morgan, some spiced rum, the new Amsterdam vodka. So the good stuff. I don't have it with me now, but I'd say that the beer of choice was, I don't know if you guys have tried this a couple years ago. So Yingling and Hershey partnered and they created this chocolate stout that I'm a really big fan of. I know some don't like it, but me, I could just down a case of those suckers.
Yeah, they're really good. They're hard to find. Probably not by
Delicious.
living in Hershey, but the Hershey, the Hershey Yingling is.
Yeah, shout out Timmy Platt. That's his favorite beer.
Yeah,
It's a solid
Scotty
beer.
knows.
And just about every
That's
bar,
Scotty's favorite.
like every bar in this town, they have that on draft as well. So it's a lot easier to get your hands
man.
on.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Oh my. Well, I'm staying domestic. Got a nice Mick Ultra for the second straight pod. I have to go get other different beers. I mean, I have like 2 cases of this at the apartment right now. Haven't been here in a week. So I got to drink up apparently so that I can
You've
go get
been
different beer.
down at the Virgin Islands, right?
Yeah,
Did you
I've
get
been
some
down to the
color there,
Virgin
Brian?
Islands. I've been enjoying a nice
How do you feel?
vacation. They don't even know what hockey is down there.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it last podcast.
They have about 2 baseball fields and a soccer field there, and that's about it. That's the only sports that reign there. But yes, although I was not on the last pod, I did listen to the last pod. So anyone who listened to the first 3 minutes of that got a nice taste of my life.
something like
I don't even know where to go from that, dude. Like,
Don't know either. It was
I don't know where to go from that. Well, Matt, I'll let these guys kick it off with questions. I know they're anxious to ask you about your career and your time in Hershey, as well as really everywhere else you've been. You've been so many different places. So, Kyle, kick us off.
I mean, so I guess let's kick it off with a big start. What is the biggest interaction you've had or the coolest story that you can think of with someone that's been within the organization that you've met with or talked with, or a story that you think is cool from an interaction with them, whether they made it to the NHL or not? Like, break it down for us.
Yeah, what's really cool about being a part of this organization since 2015-16 season was my first year as an intern. So intern for 3 years, and they hired me full-time out of college. And now this would be my 3rd season as a full-timer with the organization. Just a lot of great people that have come through here. When I was in my very first year, Scott Gomez signed as a PTO with the Bears at the very end of his career, where he ended up finishing that season playing with the Ottawa Senators after he had a very nice stint in Hershey. as he looked to keep his career alive. Then I believe he ended up retiring after that season and going into coaching. But being around a vet like Scott Gomez, who is a former rookie of the year. He's won the Calder with the New Jersey Devils, had a great career in Jersey, winning the Stanley Cup, one who really embraced playing under Lou Lamoriello. Being able to be in the presence of him was awesome. Then I think about guys, through the years that have been really enjoyable to work with. Jacob Verana was always really good to me. It was a bummer to see him get traded away. I hope he does well in Detroit. Players like I think of Travis Boyd. I think of Chandler Stevenson. More recently, I've dealt with Vitek Vanacek and Ilya Samsonov, and being around those two goaltenders when they really started to flourish and come into their own and earn their eventual spot in Washington was really enjoyable. Phoenix Copley is another. It's been really fun to be around so many players. I guess the question is how PG do I have to keep it with some of the stories? I don't want to go too far.
You break it down as far as you want. There's no
Yeah.
As close to NC-17 as you can get without actually getting there.
So I'll tell you my Scott Gomez story. So this one is one of my favorites where it was 15-16 season. So I'm a sophomore in college, 19 years old, and first exposure, being around, these world-class athletes. Then you have a guy like Scott Gomez, and for me, I'm in heaven, right? Like, this is unreal.
Yeah.
One of the things I had to do that year was I was the 3 stars guy. So I would stand in the tunnel and grab guys as they were leaving the ice and, tell them if they were one of the 3 stars, give them a stick, have them sign it, then have them on standby, wait for their cue, then send them out when their name's announced and they give out a stick. So when you are the 3 stars guy, you are the biggest fan in the arena because when they win, you're in heaven. It's awesome. You're fist bumping the guys. Everyone is in a great mood. It's like a party down there. When they lose, it's absolutely miserable. It's just, it's just tough because there's such competitors, there's such competitors and they always want to win and anything else is not acceptable. So it was one game where Scott Gomez was like the number 2 star for us during his PTO stint. So I have to, grab Scott Gomez and tell him, hey, you're a star. Here's a stick, sign it. In a few moments, they're going to call your name. You're going to skate on out. And Gomez is a jokester, right? So he takes the stick, he signs it. And as we're waiting for his cue, he kind of leans over to me and, we're both looking towards the ice and you have the fans and you have the little girls and the boys hanging over the railing, trying to get his attention. So, they want, him to go out and give them their stick. So he leans over to me and he sees the 7-year-old hanging over the railing. And he says to me, so what do you think of that 7-year-old over there? And I just said to him, yeah, she looks great. And he looks at me and he goes, you effing pervert. Like, what is wrong with you? And I almost fell over where it's like, all right, I just got chirped by Scotty Gomez. That's awesome. I want to work in hockey the rest of my life and get chirped by the best players to ever play this game.
Oh my gosh.
That is classic.
I love it.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
That's a great
Oh,
story.
Now you mentioned all those guys that came through there, like the Travis Boyds, the Chandler Stevensons, the Vranas, Vanacek, Samsonov. I mean, you name it. Was there one guy that really stuck out to you as like, man, that he's going to be a great someday, or is that maybe still there in like a Connor McMichael or somebody, as in maybe a young guy who's in the league that hasn't gotten his chance to be the next big thing?
What's really cool is when you see a guy for the first time and you think to yourself, yeah, he's not bad, but does he jump out to me? Does he look like a guy that could be in the NHL tomorrow? No. But then you take that same guy and in a year, It's like, wow, this guy, I could really see being a fourth line center in Washington. And the guy that I'm thinking of is Brian Pino, where when he played collegiately at Providence, and when he debuted as a rookie in Hershey, I believe it was 18-19. At the time, think, all right, well, he's young, he's got a world of potential. And now he's a guy that when I watch him play, I think he could be in the NHL tomorrow. Like, he's a fourth line center option for Washington in a nutshell. And when training camp opens, he is a guy I am going to be watching, since I think the Capitals will absolutely give him every opportunity possible to perhaps make the opening night roster for them. So he's one that I'm certainly rooting for and have my eye on. Guys like Jacob Verana, when he debuted in Hershey and you saw his release, you knew it was an NHL caliber shot, and you knew he had a very good chance to get to the NHL. From a goaltending perspective, Ilya Samsonov was one where it was a very interesting story with him, where he struggled when he first got to Hershey. If you look at his numbers to start the 18-19 season, they weren't pretty. And I remember a game that was going into holiday break in December, the final game before Christmas break, where we're at home. I believe we were playing the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and Samsonov got absolutely lit up. It was just one of his worst performances. Teams booed off the ice, and I thought to myself, gee, I don't know if we're going to see this kid again after the holiday break. He just might go back to Russia, and he just might stay there and go back to the KHL. But he came back and he found another gear to his game. Funny enough, it all started with the number change. He was wearing number 1 at the start of his pro career in Hershey, and it turned out he hated number 1. And once we changed his number, a switch went off, and he was spectacular. And I remember our first round playoff series in 2019, the Bears played against the Bridgeport Sound Tigers in a best of 5, where game 1 of that series, the Bears lost in double overtime. But I remember thinking to myself, this guy could play in the National Hockey League, and he could do so at a very high level. As the season progressed, he just ramped it up consistently. And when it was all said and done, you look at 1920, and he was certainly one who was getting a very strong look up top.
Yeah, for sure.
So let me ask you something. What was it like? I don't know the official term, so I apologize, but what was it like for you to experience in person? I've seen your post on Facebook for the Teddy Bear game, for the first goal scored. Well, like everyone threw a Teddy Bear. What was that like?
So the Teddy Bear toss. So yeah, it's usually the first Sunday in the month of December. We encourage fans to bring a teddy bear or any stuffed animal they're choosing to the game. They throw them onto the ice when the Bears score their first goal. And it's something Hershey fans are very competitive over. I think in 1920, so December of 19, the last time we had it before the pandemic, over 40,000 teddy bears thrown onto the ice. We had ESPN there that night to film an E60 that has since aired on ESPN, that really showcases what the event means to the community and also the impact it has on the Milton Hershey School. It's just unbelievable. And what's really cool is how it organically grew over time. I remember going to Bears games 10 years ago where it was 7, 8, 9,000 when they hit 10,000
around that area, right?
Exactly. So I would always go to the teddy bear toss game. It was one that I know a lot of fans just circled on their calendar every year. And it just organically, year after year, took on a life of its own. And it just became this spectacle now that people travel from all over the country to see that event in person and to contribute to the teddy bear toss. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
I mean, you see it on TikTok, you see it on Facebook, you see it on YouTube. I can't imagine what it's like to see it in person. So
I think we might, look, barring any schedule conflicts, I think we might have to take a podcast group trip to the Teddy Bear Toss this year.
I'm definitely.
I'm down.
I think we might have to do that.
make sure, so when you do that, my advice is, so you want to get the tickets early. You always want to sit in the 100 level, and you want to avoid the end zones, because one of the most enjoyable parts to the teddy bear toss is when you are being pelted in the head with teddy bears as it's raining down onto the ice, and you're one of the lucky ones that it's just bombarded.
You get to re-throw it out.
Love that. I love it. You actually mentioned E60, like a ESPN coming and doing an E60 on the teddy bear toss one time, and I reading over your profile, you actually worked on some video content for E60 in the middle of college. So how did that? This I actually had to chuckle a little bit when reading through it. It's like you were in college from like 14 to 18, right? You're at Chip before grad school, just undergraduate, 14 to 18. In 2016, you worked with ESPN doing E60. How did that happen? Like, how did you just in the middle of college, you're just doing E60s like with video? Like, how did that even come about?
Yeah, it's crazy. So when I want to say this was at the very start of my junior year. So ABC 27 has a very good relationship with Shippensburg University, and I had the chance to learn under an incredible man. His name's Greg Mason. He passed away in 2019 due to prostate cancer, but he was the sports director at that station for 40 years. And when you're the sports director at a station for 40 years, I can only imagine how many interns you have under your wing through the years. And thankfully, I was one of them. Another intern that he had through the years, his name is Ben Hauser, who now works for WWE, but for a very long time was at ESPN as an executive producer doing E60s. So he has a love. So Ben Hauser has a love for professional wrestling and the WWE. So over time, he was granted access to do some documentaries and do some stories on wrestlers and their journeys and their career through developmental to making it to the big leagues, so to speak, being WWE. So Ben Hauser was doing a piece on former WWE wrestler. His name is Adam Rose. That was his ring name. So for Adam Rose, he was with WWE, and then he was released and still wrestling in the indies. So he was an independent wrestler just as a freelancer who would do a lot of house shows, much smaller scale productions. And it was just his weekend gig to help provide for his family. So he was doing a house show. If you're familiar with Spooky Nook, so that facility, and I believe it's Manheim Township there. But he was doing a house show on the weekend back in, I want to say it was September of 2016. So Ben Hauser could not make it. So he contacted ABC 27, where he has that strong relationship with Greg Mason, his sports department, and says, if you could send a few people there to get some video footage of Adam Rose wrestling at this promotion, we would use it as in part of the E60 that we're currently interested in working on. So as an intern at ABC 27, there I am at this house show shooting some footage of Adam Rose wrestling and running the ropes, and then feeding that footage to ESPN so you could be listed in the credits for an E60 piece. So at the end of the day, it's crazy how small of a world it is sometimes, and just through connections, sometimes you get opportunities that you don't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's what a resume builder right there. I mean, you're just in the middle of undergrad, and you end up in the credits on an E60. Like that's something you can say for the rest of your life, and like it's not like it just seems so like I don't even want to say small compared to what you're doing now, but like it just seems like the building block to what you're doing, and that's awesome that it just led to so much more for you.
Now, the unfortunate part is that it never aired. So that kind of sucks. I can still tell the story that I can still tell the story that nonetheless, we were there one day shooting freelance footage for ESPN, and it never saw the light of day ever again.
Hey, that doesn't matter.
Hey, you can still throw it
In
on
my
your
book.
resume, right?
Oh yeah.
Derek, you got a question?
Yeah. So I was just coming off of speaking about getting opportunities. I want to know what your thoughts are on their new hire, promoting Scott Allen as head coach, and then also bringing in as an assistant coach Steve Bergen from he was down in I believe it was South Carolina, right, with the Stingrays.
Yeah,
So I want to know your thoughts on some coaching promotions and upgrades here.
Yeah. Well, first, really great for Spencer Carberry to get promoted. So he was the head coach of the Hershey Bears. Now he will be an assistant on the Toronto Maple Leaf staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great for him. He takes the place of the role that Dave Hackstall had on the Maple Leaf staff before he then became the head coach of the Seattle Kraken. So Scott Allen recently named the new head coach of the Bears, their 27th head coach in franchise history. And I had the chance to get to know Scott Allen when he joined the organization in the 2019-2020 season. And he is a very intelligent hockey mind that is just so well respected, and players enjoy playing for him. And an early eye opener for me when it came to Scotty Allen and just the background that he has in pro hockey and how much he loves the game and the daily grind, because it is a grind when you spend 27 years coaching pro hockey, especially at the minor league level when you are riding the bus from city to city. It was a Canadian road trip in October of 19 that had concluded in Quebec, where Hershey, they won a game against the Rocket. And after the game, we were at the hotel bar. We weren't traveling back to Hershey until the next morning. So it was an opportunity for guys after taking 2 out of 3 on a Canadian road trip. They had the night in Quebec. So a lot of guys would hop on an Uber and they traveled about 20 minutes to downtown Montreal and enjoy their Saturday night. Me and my boss and broadcaster, voice of the Hershey Bears, Zach Fish, some other support staff members, we'd stayed back at the hotel, and we're at the hotel bar in Quebec with Scott Allen. And still early on, getting to know him more and more, midnight struck when we were sitting at the bar, and I turned 24 years old. So I turned 24. We're all having a good time, and he says to me, Padre, and I'll get into a moment as to why he calls me Padre. So he says, "So Padre, you're 24 now." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, this is my 24th year coaching pro hockey." And if there was any moment for me where it's like, wow, like this guy just absolutely loves it. And, he said to me that there's not a day that goes by where he doesn't enjoy it. He loves every moment, every day. For a coaching career for him that started in Johnstown, Pennsylvania with the Johnstown Chiefs, the ECHL, to one who was an assistant coach with the Coyotes. Yeah, assistant coach with the Coyotes. In his time with the Arizona Coyotes, they had the best PK in the National Hockey League, the best penalty kill, and he was the guy running it. So he is a PK specialist. Also some time with the Islanders as well, just very well respected. So to have him as our head coach it's just really great for us.
Yeah. I mean, that's minor league. I mean, and I worked in minor league, but we talked about it a little bit before the podcast. I worked in minor league baseball this year, and minor league is sometimes a coaching carousel, and you can't, although you want to get emotionally attached to these guys because they're such great people most of the time, and like you obviously want to see them do bigger and better things, and it's so cool once you have built a relationship with these people to see them move up and get into that bigger level than they were already at. It's awesome to see that. What has been your, I guess, highlight of your career at Hershey? Not so much like the people you met or the team itself, but just you being on the scene of hockey, of professional hockey, and what has that meant to you especially in the long term, and what do you have looking forward?
Yeah. The game has already done more for me than I could ever do for it, honestly, which is pretty cool since I'm only 25. I think for me, what stands out is, so I grew up listening to John Walton, since he was the play-by-play voice of the Hershey Bears. I still believe he's the longest tenured Bears broadcaster in franchise history. He was here from 2002 through 2011. So for about 10 seasons, he spent here before becoming the radio voice of the Washington Capitals. And he was behind the microphone for a lot of really key moments in this franchise history. He was here for the beginning of the affiliation with Washington. He called Calder Cup championships in 2006, 2009, 2010. So at that time, I was 11 years old. I was 14 years old, 15 years old. So those are the glory days of being a sports fan, right? When you're that young and you absolutely live and die by your favorite sports team. And I grew up going to games in Hershey just as a little kid, since growing up in the Allentown area, my parents could either drive an hour and a half to Philadelphia and spend $80 on a ticket to see the Flyers, or they could drive that same distance and pay a fraction of the price and see Hershey, and the quality of hockey was still tremendous. So I grew up going to Hershey. I loved the organization from a very young age. I listened to Walton since I was 7 years old, paint the picture and describe a Bears game to a kid who was an hour and a half away and would only make it to 2 or 3 games a year. Uh, then it was the 15-16 season when I was interning, and Walton was the voice of the Capitals by that time. But when Washington would be eliminated from the playoffs, and Hershey, if they were still playing and they made it to the 2016 Calder Cup finals, uh, Hershey games that would be televised. So the traditional radio play-by-play voice would do the TV broadcast, and then John Walton, on a few occasions, he would then slide in and actually return to Hershey and call the games on radio. So my first year as an intern, it was the conference finals. The Bears were playing against the Toronto Marlies. And for game 5 of the series, I was with the team north of the border. We were at then called Ricoh Coliseum. Now it's the Coca-Cola Coliseum, just outside of downtown. And I was on air doing intermissions with Walton. So from growing up listening to him, and then we're on the air together, both broadcasting intermissions and describing how Christian Djoos scored a goal in the second period. And then that game was also being broadcasted on NHL Network Radio. So it was the first time I was ever on Sirius XM. That to me, that to me was really special, just because, you think about the journey growing up and you think about how much it meant to you as a kid, to be able to someday hope and dream that could be you, to be that guy that you were listening to, or to contribute to the organization. So just to be able to do that, I think it's just really special.
Yeah, and I know these guys got more questions, but you brought up broadcasting, and as a broadcaster myself, it just kind of sparked my mind. How actually hard is it to prepare for a hockey broadcast, or even just broadcast hockey in general? Because the puck moves so fast, and you have to know when the lines switch, when, like, who has the puck at what time. You have to keep your eyes moving, head on a swivel, everything. And it all just seems so fast. But I listen to somebody like Doc Emmerich, and I'm like, he just does it so well. And like, I have no idea how he did it so well for so long. How hard is that actually to do?
It's interesting because for the longest time I was just a color guy. So I was the guy that was able to think about, what is happening and have a few extra seconds to think about what I'm going to say before the actual delivery. where doing play-by-play is a whole nother beast, as you alluded to. So I did play-by-play for the first time just this past season. After Hershey, I was laid off during the pandemic. I had the chance to go to the ECHL and actually for the first time do play-by-play and be the voice of a team and still broadcast a full season of AA hockey. And that was a lot of fun where I had to learn the play-by-play job completely and just go off of what do I know from listening to Zach Fish? What do I know from listening to Scott Stuccio, John Walton, from watching Doc Gemrick, and other great broadcasters like Howie Rose, who used to do the Islanders on TV before Brennan Burke took over for him. So just listen back to so many great broadcasters and try to figure it all out through a long 72 game season. How am I going to do this? What I've learned is, and everyone has their own philosophy when it comes to how to call a game. For me, nobody in the right mind cares, especially when it's AA hockey, every single touch, movement, and zigzag of the puck. Yeah. If you try to keep up with that as a broadcaster, you are going to wear yourself out. You are going to wear the listener out, and it's just not going to be all that entertaining. For me, when it's AA hockey, the number one thing, especially when it's a minor league hockey team in South Carolina, where the fan bases aren't exactly, the size of a franchise like in Hershey, entertainment is huge. So when my thinking was, when you need to know where the puck is, you will know where the puck is. But when there are 10 turnovers in the neutral zone within 20 seconds where 14 different guys just touch the puck, I am not going to walk you through every single movement of that sequence. Instead, I'm going to use that opportunity to tell the story of, here's Joey Haddad, who has the puck through the neutral zone, who played the last 6 seasons overseas with the Cardiff Devils in the United Kingdom, who was playing against the Atlanta Gladiators for the first time since 2013. That, I think, is a more interesting tidbit than so-and-so just turned the puck over, at center ice.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's just going through all the different storylines before each and every game, and getting the opportunity to talk with players and to talk with the coaching staff before each and every game and learn and just try to be a student of the game in terms of, how do you feel you played last night? Or what are some things that you are going to really be focusing on tonight when you're coaching against this other team that you haven't seen in about 4 months? How do you try to get the right matchup? And the more background info you can throw out during a broadcast without, force feeding it, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Derek, Kyle, you got any more questions?
I just want to know, how is it hard not to slip up and maybe curse on air? I've always wondered that, because it's like, when I'm talking hockey, I throw in a couple F-bombs here and there, and I'm talking, I really get into it. But when you're live, you have an audience, like, how tough is that kind of stay? I maybe not in character, but try to stay within the lines.
Yeah. Especially sorry, before, I don't mean to cut you off, but especially being so emotionally attached to this team.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, as a fan, how do you not? When I watch my team, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like a big,
keep it out of that.
Say the other team scores a big goal late in the game to take the lead.
Fucking puck.
Yeah,
I catch myself saying that all the time.
It's like you're the puck goes in the net. You're like, fuck. What? That's exactly what goes through my head when I'm watching Capitals games. But obviously, I know I have a different, almost like an alter ego when I broadcast. It's just so locked in, and I don't know if it's the same way for you.
Yeah, I can't explain it, and it's funny because anyone that knows me well, those that have worked with me over the years, I'm not exactly a PG person when it comes to what I say. So when I was in Greenville, working for the Swamp Rabbits as their broadcaster last season, a lot of my coworkers, they said to me, "You curse more than any other human being I've ever met in my life." The fact that you curse the fact that you've never cursed on air is unbelievable. And I mean, I'm gonna bang on the wooden desk here. I mean, and I've never slipped up on air before. And if I do, then hey, it was a nice career. See you later.
Have a
but
see you later.
yeah, but I think, and to your point, when the headset is on before a game and the intro hits, there's a switch that goes off. And I think one of the really cool things about doing play-by-play last year was really experiencing, you know, that switch that I never really knew existed, right? Where just the intro plays in your headset and you just feel yourself, getting zoned in, and then the microphone is on, and then I tell people I black out for 3 hours and I just start talking, and then that's that. And before you know it, it's post game and you're wrapping up, and hopefully your team was on top at the end of it. But it's crazy. I'm definitely someone that's emotionally invested with the team. I would lie if I said I never had firm talking, a firm talking to from our team president in Greenville over, maybe you could have handled this a little bit better, or I think you might have been whining a little too much here or there. What's really funny is so in the coast, the Jacksonville Icemen, which was a team that we played 18 times last year in Greenville. We played Jacksonville 18 times, with only 14 teams playing in the coast, and about half of the league opting out due to COVID-19. The schedule was a bit chaotic. The Jacksonville Icemen would not travel or they would not travel their broadcaster on the road. So whenever the Icemen were in our building, so it was Jacksonville at Greenville, the only audio feed coming out of that building was me. So that poor fan base had to listen to me for, I think, 9 games that year. And Jacksonville fans absolutely hated me. And I'm talking social media getting blown up. I mean, there were some crazies that found like my private Instagram account and just like me up with just like hate messages on there. And there was one game where I was asking for it, where I was frustrated. We gave up a late goal in the third period where they had the extra attacker on. We end up losing in overtime, and their team, for the vast majority of the season, they were pretty much near the basement of the Eastern Conference. I think their only saving grace was the Wheeling Nailers. So they beat us in overtime in our building, and they put forth a Selly on the ice like I've never seen before out of a team that was just a few weeks away from tea time. It was unbelievable to me. And I'm live microphone, and I just went off a little bit over, that's quite the celebration from a team who's just, they're only, like I said, they're only saving grace from the bottom of the Eastern Conference is the Wheeling Nailers, and I went a little too far. And I knew I went too far, and it was just a matter of how much am I going to pay for it after the game. And you go on Twitter and people are pissed, and people aren't happy, and you just take it and you learn from it and you move on, and
it hurts even more because the Wheeling Nailers are Pittsburgh, so
yeah.
You don't even know who plays on Wheeling Nailers, Kyle. Come on. No,
I can't even imagine how that conversation goes. It's like, that shit was kind of funny, but like, don't do that again.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
to put it into wrestling terms, you were the heel for the night.
Oh, for sure.
You're the heel. That's amazing.
And you know what's funny is and our team president, so Todd Mackin, and it was so much fun working for him with the Swamp Rabbits, because he was a guy that he was a great motivator. He was a great teacher, and I learned so much from him in terms of trying to grow a minor league operation in a non-traditional market. So he would oversee the business operations side, but also from he was the boss of our head coach and director of hockey operations in Andrew Lord there. So he would hire, our coach, and he was the heartbeat of our operation. And what was funny was after the game, he texted me and he said, "Hey, do you have a moment to chat on the phone?" And I knew immediately, what it was about. And I just texted him back and I'm like, "This is about the overtime game winning call, right?" And he's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Okay, give me a second." So then I call him. So I call him and I said to him, he goes, "Yeah, you know what? I already listened back to it and I agree. Before you even start, I agree with you. I think I went too far." And ultimately, and he respected that, and he said, "Yeah, you know what? Like I just don't want our broadcaster to come off as a whiner." And I think it
Yeah.
kind of came off a little bit, too much as as a bitcher or a whiner. And
Yeah.
and I get it. He was right, and again,
Well, so
one of
are
those
you.
moments to learn from.
Yeah.
All right, so to wrap this up. Brian, you got any question?
Yeah. With the season, I guess coming up here in about a couple months, right? Two months now.
That's probably a month.
About a month.
Opening night, October 16th. So training camp.
Okay, 2 months. 2 months. Yeah, I knew I was about right with that.
Okay.
The guys are going to go up. Guys are going to come down. Give us some predictions as to what you think. Who can make that big leap up into the NHL with the Capital squad? And I'm not going to ask you who's going to come down because that's just horrible. But who do you think can make a big step up this year outside of maybe even the obvious?
I think Brian Pino is going to be competing for a fourth line center spot with Washington. I think there's a very good chance that he makes the team out of camp, especially with his contract being a friendly one when you take the salary cap into consideration. I think he's definitely taken the strides in Hershey, where he has a skating ability that's exceptional. The foot speed is there. His finish has really improved over his time in Hershey. So I would say bold prediction, you see Brian Pino as a part of the Capitals to start their season in October. But I do think other guys that will be competing for that same role, Shane Gersich is one that I think is going to come into camp with a huge chip on his shoulder and something to prove. So that's going to be a fun competition to look out for. Then also Beck Mallenstein is a player that he did not play in the pandemic shortened season due to an injury, but he's expected to be ready to go and healthy to start this upcoming season. Not sure if he'll be in Washington or not, but I'm really intrigued with the camp that he's going to have coming up, since before his injury and his play in the 2019-2020 season, he was really turning some heads of the Capitals brass, and he made his NHL debut. He played for Washington in a game at the Garden against the Rangers, and he had a breakaway chance against Henrik Lundqvist, and he came very close to having his first NHL goal there. He's a guy that, bottom six forward, really good on the forecheck. First guy in, throws a good shoulder, energizer bunny type of guy that I think if he improves his hands a bit more, he's a guy that I could really see as a bottom six guy that can produce in Washington.
So
Yeah.
what do you think of Connor McMichael? What do you think?
I think he's special. He's really special, and one of the reasons why is he's so intelligent. And you never know what you're gonna get when a guy is transitioning from the major junior game to the pro game. Some guys transition much sooner than others. Others, it just takes a bit of time. But McMichael and his hockey IQ and his intelligence is next level, especially for a kid his age. And when you combine that with his skating ability and the finish that he already has, he's going to be in the National Hockey League. It's not an if, it's just a matter of when. He'll certainly be competing for a spot in Washington, but at the end of the day, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world should we see him start the season in Hershey just to get some more development in and just some more reps at the minor league level. before he earns the permanent promotion to Washington, which is certainly in the future. And I think a big part of that too is when you look at the Capitals core, it's already so top six heavy. They have their core of top six forwards, and McMichael is a top six forward. So I'm not sure. I don't think it would make all that sense to force him up top just to be a fourth line center. That's not his role. That's not, what he's destined to be. If it's February and he's had a very good first half in Hershey, and perhaps a guy like, I don't know, I mean, maybe Nicholas Backstrom is banged up with an injury and he needs a few days. I think it makes all the sense in the world then to call up a guy like McMichael and give him that stint in Washington, and where he can kind of show off where his skill set is.
And I think it also has to do with the what the Caps are trying to do with Kuznetsov. I know there's a lot of rumors circulating around with him as to what trade talks and all are going to be happening with him, and what interest, if any, are from teams. And I know there's only but so much you can comment about being with Hershey, but I think there's a lot of different options that the Caps can go with this year. I mean, especially if they want to keep McMichael down. But I think that a lot of that has to depend on what happens, like you said, with those top six forwards. And I mean, Kuzi is a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's going to be very interesting to watch from a defensive perspective as well. Some depth signings made by the organization recently. Guys like Cody Franzen, Dylan McElrath, Matt Irwin, all new members of the organization that are coming in on two-way deals that are certainly options for Washington on the back end. Martin Ferravari, I watched him in Hershey. I certainly think he's NHL ready. He was a second rounder in the very same draft where Alex Alexia was a first round draft pick. And the two of them developed a very strong, tight-knit relationship in Hershey. So it'll be interesting to see Alexiev going into camp this year, trying to prove himself as also another depth option for Washington as well. Guys like also Bobby Nardella is an interesting prospect as well that I have my eye on for Washington, that I think has surprised a lot of members of the Capitals brass as well. He's an undrafted free agent, never drafted by Washington. He signed out of college. He played collegiately at Notre Dame, and he doesn't have the most size, but he is a puck-moving defenseman with an outstanding skating ability. And he almost has, there's a lot of similarities to like a John Carlson for him that I see. And his rookie season in 1920, I thought was something special. So I really hope he kind of goes into this upcoming camp and makes a name for himself and puts himself on the map with Washington.
Absolutely. Well, Derek, you got some?
Oh, no, we're good. I was going to ask about Martin Ferravari because he's got a pretty big opportunity coming into this year. I mean, even GM Brian McClellan has said he's ready. So I'm assuming they're going to get him. He'd probably be D-man. He'd probably be on that third pair. And, I mean, I have pretty high expectations for the kid. I mean, he looks like he's definitely NHL ready. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah,
sure.
he's been a lot of fun to watch here, and I give a lot of credit to Patrick Weller, one of the assistant coaches in Hershey, who has been a big part of working with a lot of the young defensemen, the young blue liners here. And there's been countless hours I've seen it firsthand of Weller just sitting down and having the one-on-ones with Ferravari and each and every blue liner when it comes to looking at film and just breaking down the finer details of the game that go way above and beyond my head, but ultimately stuff that's consistent with the expectations in Washington to hopefully make him ready to make that leap and be an everyday player for the Capitals.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, we really appreciate you joining us. It has been a blast hearing your stories, hearing what's going on down there in Hershey. I know we definitely want to get up to a game up there, go visit, and especially that teddy bear toss. I definitely got to bring a teddy bear to that. That's on the bucket list for me. That's on the sports bucket list now, is just to go to that teddy bear toss. That would be awesome. But we do appreciate you coming on. Best of luck this year. I know things are probably getting crazy with new protocols that might be coming in place. And I know that it's nothing's normal anymore around the sports world, but hopefully it is as normal as it possibly can be for you. And like I said, best of luck this year.
I appreciate it. And anytime you guys want to come up to Hershey, let me know, and we'll get you all taken care of.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate it, buddy.
We'll take you up on that for sure.
You bet.
For sure.